Welcome to another Workshop Wednesday. I'm so excited to be back here again with you today. We're going to share with you top tips for getting over your insecurities and becoming the rock star stager and designer you know you are. So my name is Lori Graham and I'm the VP of Operations for HSRA. That's the Home Staging and Redesign Alliance. And this is Dawn Tucker, who had her own interior design company and staging company, and now is our staging and design business builder. And she is here for you. So this is one of me and Dawn's most favorite topics. So get ready, get a pen, get paper, take notes, interact with us. I'm super excited for the topic because the only way we're going to grow is if we go together. So welcome, Dawn.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. And you're right. I love this topic.
We are so similar in this. So as people are getting logged on and tuning in, why don't you give us a little background of your businesses that you've had, where you're at, who your client was, all of that good stuff.
Sure. So I started just basic hobby home stager at first. This was about 10 years ago, and somebody introduced me to HSRA. And it was at that point that I decided I needed to turn my hobby and passion into an actual business and learn to value myself and what I was bringing to the table. So I started with staging, and then that slowly developed into a lot of design jobs because realtors, investors, and clients that purchased the homes began to love what we were bringing in, what we were selecting. With the stages, sometimes we would even replace small items like light fixtures, a specific rug or carpet or tile. So it's amazing how some of those design ideas incorporate into staging. So no matter what anybody says, the two are intertwined at some point in some way, always. So with that said, I began to offer design or decorating as part of my business. And as I grew and had a staging team, I began to build and bring on actual designers onto my team as well. And then with that, the residential design that we were offering and doing, we began to get some commercial jobs. And so commercial design was a whole new beast for me. And so I needed to bring in another designer that had some experience with commercial. And I brought her onto the team. She was phenomenal. I love her. And 10 years later, we had staging, we had design, until I decided to just go a different direction. And still, I'm here. I'm still in the heart of what I love, which is staging and design. I'm just in it in a different direction. So
I love that. I love that you bring the experience for everyone in our industry. The beginner stager, the person who thinks they want to start a staging company, is not sure how to do it, asking a lot of questions. And then you have the people who just started that went from that person that's like, oh, I like to stage, or I can't, maybe it's the person that has like the real estate agent friend, and it's like, they ask you, hey, your house looks really good. Can you set this house up for me? And then before you know it, it turns into a whole staging company or a design company. And then for our interior designers, and so many times it crosses over. A lot of our HSRA members are interior designers, and interior designers are also home stagers. They go wherever they need to go at the moment. I know that there's a small group that are like, I don't want to do interior design and I don't want to do staging. I only want to do my one thing. And that's perfect. That's part of building your niche. But knowing how to do it makes you more accessible for more business coming in. And so I love that you have all of those, Dawn. I love that you have the heart to help people. That's what HSRA is about. And the foundation is just trying to help business owners be successful and take a breath here and there, right? And so Janice started her own staging company 20 years ago out of that exact need, is that she was selling her own home, and they bought a new one. They took all their furniture out of their first home, and then it just sat on the market. So then she went and took some furniture out of her actual home that she was living in, put it back into her vacant home, and it sold immediately. And then like the light bulbs went off. And so she was doing that for maybe about 10 years before she realized, you know what? This was so hard. There's like no help for stagers. Like there's nowhere you can go that somebody's going to actually help you and tell you the mistakes they made so that you don't make them. So she started HSRA, and here we are. So we literally exist for stagers and designers to help them grow, help them start their business, and help them to do business right and not have to make all the mistakes. And so one of those things, whether you've been in business for 20 years or you're just starting your business, I think one of the biggest things is that our industry is 90% women. And let's just be real, ladies. We get a little insecure sometimes. We got a lot of emotions going on. Things happen to us. Like we really do want to be for each other, but sometimes insecurities get in and they actually hold us back. And so I know Donna and I could probably talk about this on a personal level for hours, but also business today. So Dawn, talk to me about what you've experienced as a business owner with insecurity in your business, and then how you kind of overcame that, because you're a rock star at that, and how community really helped you build Dawn's Designs and then Interior Design Company.
Sure. So quick and funny story. This is right after I started my own business. Is I had a client that I did a great stage job on. I still to this day loved everything I put in this home. The realtor came back and said, I don't like some of it. I'm going to come back and switch it around and move it around and put in some of my own stuff. And so anyways, long story short, we worked through that and got through that situation. Again, I was new and I could go into a lot of detail about how that happened. But the moral of the story is my husband, when I'm in tears talking to my husband, because I wanted my first really big luxury stage job to be great. And this is, how it turned out. And it was great in the end. But anyways, I'm in tears. I'm talking to my husband, and he, of course, was like, babe, you got to let it roll off your shoulders. You cannot be in business if you don't start letting this stuff not affect you. And I was just like, and I wanted him to like coddle me, and I wanted him to, dote me. And but he was doing me a favor and saying, look, you're going to have to figure this out. And so with that said, what I decided to do was, one, I'm always able to talk to my husband, but I decided then I needed to go to a community. I needed to be with other like-minded stagers and designers that would understand where I was coming from, but not only listen to me, but give me some of their solutions and some of their ideas on how to handle situations like the one that I was in. And so that kind of steamrolled into, again, HSRA, introducing myself to just a community outside of my hometown. And then taking that and finding some like-minded business leaders in town with me, whether it was stagers or designers. And I'll be honest, there were a couple of people that were very off-putting, and we are just going to have to love each other from afar because we agree to disagree on everything. But that's okay. I found my people. I found who I needed to have to kind of help me get through some of these things and help start to feed my securities and insecurities so that I could continue to build my business.
Yeah. And that's so important. And a lot of times, before we changed our name, HSRA, HSRA standing for Home Staging and Redesign Alliance, we were Home Staging and Redesign Association. So a lot of people would not understand what HSRA was about because we have, RESA, we have IHOSP, and we're members of both of them. And so we had to come to a decision so that we could differentiate, because what they were offering was different than what we were offering. And what we are offering is support for the business owner, whatever level, whether you're a phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3 business owner. It's the business side of your staging business. It's masterminds where I've been here going on 6 years now. I cannot tell you how many tissues we've used in our masterminds, because we get real and raw, because that's really the only way that you can move past a hurdle, right? Is if you really can get in a protected environment and say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. Even if it's like, we always use, I'll say Susie Stager. Susie Stager has better staging than me and I don't like it. Even if it's just that, right? Like if it's just very like keeping it funky, like I don't like that. I want to be like her. If it's that silly, right? We can work through that, right? Because nothing empowers you more than being around somebody that says, oh my gosh, I was right there with you. And I really had to just be around some different people that every day empower me or encourage me. We have so many different members within HSRA that live in big cities, and there's so many staging companies. We were just in the DC area having a marketing mastermind for stagers and designers, and everyone there was like 20 minutes apart, 20 minutes from where we were at. So, you know, that area, I know there's a cluster of a bunch of places right all together, and they were all willing to help each other. They were, and even before COVID, they were meeting for lunch monthly, all of those stagers. And so what more of a confidence builder than being able to be around fellow stagers and have that information and that encouragement from them, the transparency from them. And like you said, Don, not everybody is going to be like, oh, let me tell you my trade secret, or let me tell you how I did this. But there are, I'm telling you right now, there's a whole membership within HSRA that is our culture. And so it's being able to find your people, find your tribe, having the conversations, and then having the education of the people that went before you and the modules and the trainings. And so can you give us an example or a time when maybe you were insecure besides the luxury, but like, how did it make you feel when you went to a stager or another staging company that was maybe more seasoned than you?
Yes.
And rejected you?
Yes, I can give you a lot of stories, but again, you live, you learn. So, one, as you're starting a business and you're coming in and you think that you know what you know. Again, I came from a corporate background, and so I was familiar with business and I knew a lot of the office side of things, but I didn't know the business side of things. And so going into even a conference, the thing that I was very guilty of at the very beginning was comparing myself to the more seasoned stager. And that was really hard because I began to, in my mind, talk through, should I start buying product or inventory like hers? Should I start posting exactly what she's posting? And again, it kind of plays with your head. And I think anybody would be lying if they said that they don't do this on the regular. I did. But luckily, again, I had a great team that would say, hey, this is what makes Don's designs Don's designs. This is what you are going to bring to the table. And so what I struggled with was just really comparing myself to other bigger, more seasoned staging companies. But again, when you find the right people, it's almost like they pull you back in and they say, you will be there, but you're going to be there on a different level. And you're going to be there maybe with some different product, because there's just so many, a plethora of different style homes. There are homes that were built in the 1800s here that are beautiful, that need to be staged, and they are not going to be staged with our downtown loft condo, modern, super, there's just, the spectrum is wide when it comes to inventory, clients, what the need is. And so it took the right tribe to tell me to stop comparing Dawn's Designs to anybody else. And I needed to pick who I wanted to be and who I wanted my name or what I wanted my name to be on. And then I needed to build that, and I needed to stay with it, and I needed to be loyal to that. So that is it's very, very hard. And up until the last 10 years, I still would compare myself to people that were bigger and people that were better, but I compared myself in a different way. As I matured, as I became more seasoned, my comparing my business to another business 10 years later was more, how do I want to continue to grow like they have grown, instead of how do I replicate their inventory and property, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a maturity in that as you grow and as you begin to bring the right team around you that can speak into you and say, you are going to be there, but you've got to be there and still be your own person. So
yeah. I love that. And something you really hit on is in every major city and even small towns, places are evolving, right? And so you see these new, is it called barndominiums? Like they're barns they're making into condos. That's a new thing, right? And so a great point that you had is, number one, stager designer that's watching this, what excites you about what you do? What do you see and you're like, oh, I love it, I love it. You know, like you'll see a certain type of design or whatever, and you're just like, I love this so much. Because a lot of times that competition that you're comparing yourself to doesn't even stage or design the same way that you would, like the same trends or the same type of furniture. So Dawn and I were talking before this, and I was telling her how when I did real estate a bazillion years ago, I worked in an area of LA, South Pasadena. So that area is old Hollywood money. They're the big giant houses that look like the White Houses. They're Victorians, they're Tudors, they're craftsmen, and there's a history to those homes. And the architecture has a history to it, right? And so could you imagine if what sets your heart on fire is farmhouse, and you put some farmhouse into a Spanish revival, it might not look great, or into a Tudor, or if you're what sets your heart on fire is super modern furniture, right? And you put it into a craftsman that has the stained glass chandelier, that's not going to match, right? That's what this person might be doing. There might be, they might specialize in staging, you know, craftsman houses or the older homes or whatever, and they might be killing it. But if that's not what sets your heart on fire, you have to find your business identity. You have to find what you could do day in and day out, good, bad, ugly, super ugly, hello pandemic, and that it's not going to stop you from doing what you're called to do, your purpose in starting the business. And so I love that you touched on that and finding your niche. And I do know, maybe you can speak to some of the newer stagers that may watch this. I know when stagers first start, they're like, I just need to make some money. And I know that at HSRA, we're always saying, know your value. Do not undercut. Do not offer to do a vacant stage for $500 for the love of everything good, right? They're just trying to get that money in so that they continue to build. And sometimes you have to accept a property that maybe wouldn't be your passion, maybe wouldn't be something that you love to do. But how can the newer stager find their identity, their business identity, and their niche, but at the same time be able to make a profit?
So the thing that I did, and this may not be everybody's niche, this may not be a direction they want to go, but I didn't have a lot of inventory at first, and I did not want to put my finances at risk at that time. But I also wanted to follow my heart. I knew I wanted to stage. I knew when I sat down and wrote goals that at the end of the year, I wanted to have X amount of inventory. So what I did for the first 6 months were consultations, and consultations were developing relationships with just a handful of realtors in Wichita. I would go to them and I would say, let me just try me. I'm not going to charge you less. This is my cost because I am worth it, but give me a shot. And I did not have one realtor come back to me and say, give me my money back. Because when something is truly your passion and you can walk into a room, even a room full of furniture and stuff of people living there in this consultation, and say, let me take a minute and get to know you. And let's talk about selling your house because I know it's emotional. And let's talk about what we need to do to get this house sold. Because at the end of the day, we need to get your house sold. Your buyers, as cute as your grandkids are, and I'm a grandma, trust me, I got pictures of my grandson everywhere in my house. But when I sold my house less than a month ago, every picture of him was down because I wasn't selling my family. I wasn't selling the thought of my family. I was selling my home. And so I'm saying this because I had to relate to the homeowner. And my realtors began to appreciate that I would take the time. And I still did it within an hour and a half. Every consultation was no more than an hour and a half. And you can make, $200 to $300. And I would do consultations. And then not only was I doing a consultation, was I getting paid and making a little money to start stashing for inventory, but I was building relationships with my realtors. So when I did get inventory, they knew me, they wanted me, they trusted me, and they still 10 years later call me to this day and say, do you have a referral? Who do you trust? Because I trust you to do this stage.
Nice.
I still get emails and phone calls, and I'm not even in the business because people respected what I had to say and do. And the flip side of that, quickly, there are a couple of places here in Wichita, Kansas, that offered the furniture for rent, and they offered accessories and art and decor. And so when I didn't have a lot of inventory, that's another direction you could go, or that I did go. And then I would just calculate that in with some of my overhead and my time so that I actually made some money. And I went that direction as well. So those are two different ways for you, if you're new, to just get your feet wet, to get in the door. But you really have to start building those relationships, because the only marketing I did for 5 to 6 years was on social media. I never marketed at all, and I didn't have to, and I'm very blessed. I didn't have to because word of mouth.
Yeah.
Realtors talk and designers talk, stagers talk. And so I had a great community, like I said. So if my Sally stager down the street didn't have what they needed, she had them call me. If my aesthetic didn't fit what I felt like this home needed, I had them call somebody else down the street. So again, it took time, but develop relationships, and then you can start your community.
Yeah, I love that. And before we get into maybe some tips for the seasoned stager and designers, I want to say this to the newbie stagers, because we get this a lot. We get this a lot with Model My Home too, our staging company. Is people will write us, email us, text us or whatever, and they're like, "Hey, I want to start a staging business. Can I come shadow with you?" And so that you need to understand that although the company is seasoned and they've been around a while, they really do want you to be, even if you're a new stager in their area, the very most successful that you can be. What I would better recommend is maybe going to one of the training, the staging and design training, like Academy of Staging and Design, who we're partnered with at HSRA. They actually have an in-person 6-day course that you learn like the nuts and the bolts of like how to stage a home, right? And then once you've done that, and more times than not, what I tell those people is if you're thinking of starting a staging or design company, it's because you already have an eye or a knack for it. It's already kind of in your DNA, like you have been purposed for it. What the biggest problem that I've seen over the last 6 years is people don't know how. They know how to stage and do design and make things look pretty for profit, but what they don't know how to do is run business. And that's kind of where HSRA fits in, right? And so when you're asking that, I would first recommend going to a company like that. Second, when you want to network with staging companies, let them know. I think this will be so key. I'm starting my business. I don't want to undercut anyone. I'm trying to figure out the value of it. Would you be willing to meet with me once a month? I know that I'm not in competition with you. I know you've been around for 10 years, but I have a desire for this. Maybe, we can help each other out. I can refer jobs that are too big for me to you, but I really have a desire to increase this industry, not take away from it by undercutting. Have that conversation, because if you just call stagers up, sometimes business owners, they're like, oh man, like another stager. And so like their biggest fear for you is that you're going to come in and undercut and devalue our industry, which actually hurts you, because when you grow in 3 years, there's going to be another staging company or design company coming in undercutting. So that's just a little tip when you're reaching out, because we're encouraging, the whole message for today is get around a community. Reach out to the local stagers and designers in your area. Host a brunch. Have some fun. Have some conversation. Find out what everybody's niche is. What is their passion? What do they do? What are their lessons learned? Join HSRA or whatever that looks like. That's the topic. But I just wanted to give you a little tip when reaching out and you're like, oh, those girls told me about community and like be around other people, and the door keeps getting shut in my face. It's maybe not what it's the question or the what you're asking of them. So just know that. And then let's get into the more seasoned designers, and because we've talked primarily staging right now, but tell me, Dawn, what's the downfall? What's causing the insecurity in the interior design world? Like, it's a little bit of a bigger company. I feel like a bigger task when you're doing interior design versus staging. You have, all the stuff there. Whereas now this is personal, right, to their clients, and they're actually ordering for their clients versus telling their clients like, hey, I'm the expert in this. Let me stage your house. So amongst the interior design community, what do you see the biggest challenges in building a community of interior designers?
So I think with designers, you're right. It's a different, definitely a different hat, definitely a different community. I would say when I first started, probably 5 years ago, I followed a lot of private, Facebook and social media design groups, and there was a lot of hate, a lot of bitterness, a lot of just a lot of, if you don't do this, you should do this. It just was really discouraging at first for me, because that's not my heart. My heart is to build a community and to have a community. Again, when I meet with stagers and designers, I'm not asking somebody to tell me their trade secrets, because let's be honest, I could be competition, but I just wanted community. And so with the design side, it was really hard, because these designers, you just said it, staging is more of the quick. I always said it kind of fed my ADHD, because it was faster. The wheels are in motion. It doesn't mean it's easier, but it was faster. And so I could pull my inventory, I could get my logistics team, I could go out and stage, and it was done. When somebody called me, it was done within a couple of weeks. Everything, the phone call, the consultation, the phone call, the pulling, the stage, done in a couple of weeks at the most, sometimes within 3 or 4 days. A design is just getting started 30 days later. You are spending a lot of time with these people, and it gets to be really personal, and it's just a different level that you are with these clients. And so designers they take things more personal. And it took a lot for me to realize this. This is not a knock on designers. This was me understanding where they were coming from. And it took this process for me to get to where they were at. And so then I decided they weren't really bitter or feeling they weren't just being rude, but they were insecure and they were tired and they were feeling hopeless. And it was all in their words. And so it took me going through this and then beginning to kind of read in between the lines. When I read their post, and when I read their post now, I read that this designer is really tired. This designer doesn't have a community. This designer doesn't have somebody that they can go and just have a coffee or a cocktail with and say, I just need to just spend a little time with another designer who gets me, who understands me. Let's talk this through.
Yeah, if you're watching this and you are a stager, designer, business owner, and you're tired, I just want to see you type tired in the comments, because we're going to make sure that if we see that, we're going to be on you, encouraging you, sending you random motivation, checking in with you, because there's really no reason for you not to be supported and not to have that nugget that's going to get you re-energized about your business. Okay, go on, Dawn.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think that is, and all that to say, it doesn't mean that the designers are not where they're supposed to be. They love that it's personal. They love that they're getting to help somebody create their home, a home of their dreams. They're making it their space, but it can be draining. It can be exhausting. It is a long process as opposed to the short 2-week or 2-day process. So there's a big difference there. And so I think that is, that's the separation between the two is, and it doesn't mean stagers aren't tired. Don't get me wrong, stagers. Don't be hating on me.
Stagers are designers. And Debbie, she already commented tired. So we're going to be on you, encouraging you, Debbie. But yes, staging business is not as easy. There's a whole different caveat of just issues, right?
Yes. So. Yes, it is. They're both equally hard. So I don't want anybody getting upset. And I get it because I've done both. But I just think that, like I said, there's just such a difference. And I began to realize on the design side what the designers needed and kind of where we need to be for them. Because it is, and you just said it, it's just more personal. And I'm helping somebody build a bedroom. And when my clients were upset, they were upset after we've worked 30 to 60 days on a project, and then they ended up not liking something. So it's hard not to take it personal.
Yeah.
Or a contractor comes in and he installs all of the tile, but the grout color is wrong. I mean, I've had to redo an entire backsplash. Even though, yes, I was there on install day, I was there to verify the color. You can try to do everything right and check all the boxes, and mistakes still are made. Things happen, life happens. And with the design side, all of a sudden, it's very personal because you've spent time with somebody and you have had a dream and a vision for something, and then you see it come to life, and then there's a wrench thrown in it. But on the flip side, you get to see something come to life at the very end, and you get to see your client's smiles. And so, there's a lot to be said for both sides.
Yeah. And I just think of all the opportunity that's out there by building community, right? Like, you mentioned so many different scenarios. Like if you build a relationship with a stager down the street from you, and you're secure and you're mature and you know who you are, you know what your business does, there's not competition, right? There's just collaboration. And so the collaboration comes in, maybe you ran out of furniture. Maybe all your entire warehouse is out sitting because this market's a little crazy, which is thank you for the stagers. The stagers are super happy, even though they're exhausted and tired. But more importantly, there's that opportunity if you build that relationship to rent the furniture from them, maybe a stager that has lots of furniture, right? And so there's being able to exhale, like you explained how you went to your husband to tell him like the things that were going on, but he doesn't understand our industry. Although his words were wise and important and what you needed, how much more does the staging business owner understand, right? Like, oh my gosh, and could just sit there and have coffee or go have dinner together to just kind of re-energize is the word that keeps coming to me. And so I love this. I love having the conversation. And lastly, let's just wrap up with how do we, the cheerleaders who want to create community, break through to the people that maybe have a wall up? You know, like how you kind of just, you said with when you were trying to break into a community with other interior designers, you kind of felt like you're hitting a wall each time because they were like, whoa, pump your brakes, right? So how do we empower other people to create that community, and how can we break through to those that maybe have a wall up?
I think you just have to continue, even with my business, as I began to bring some designers around me. You have to chip away like an ice. It's a big ice cube sometimes, and you just got to keep chipping away at it. But with that, what I mean is I had to just keep, with my words, I had to keep doing the actions. I had to show them, hey, how are you doing today? Just checking on you. I encouraged them on their own social media post. If they did a great job, I wasn't just blowing smoke. I was like, this is a great job. You should be proud. It was encouraging other designers. But not only on social media on the front side, I encouraged them on the back side where nobody saw. So they could see that I wasn't just for show. I was really trying to be that supportive fellow industry leader, fellow designer that supported them, that wanted them to know that I was here. If they had questions about my painter is booked, do you have a painter? My flooring guy is, my company's booked right now. Do you have somebody that can come and do it? You know, there were just so many different areas that I helped other designers and that they equally helped me. We began to develop trust, but it took time, and everything doesn't happen overnight. Just like relationships, real genuine relationships that you have don't happen overnight. People are going to watch you. They're going to listen to you, and then they're going to see if you're following through with your actions. And so I think those are things that you need to be very mindful of and be aware of, because they're going to sense whether you're genuine or whether you're just, like I said, just blowing smoke and just trying to be, you know, Sally Stager down the street. That's, you know, there's a difference. People are going to see it. There's transparency. And so I just kept showing that to a lot of my designers. And like I said, there were a very, very select few that I couldn't get through to, but that's okay, because maybe that just wasn't in my cards. And I have to be okay with that too. And that's, and again, getting past some insecurities, not thinking, did I do something wrong? What did I say? It was more just knowing that it was not in my cards. They're not supposed to be in my circle.
Yeah. Sometimes rejection is protection, for sure. And so just keep that in mind as you push forward. So this was a great topic. I know, Dawn, we could have probably talked for like hours on this, but I know we have one person who we're going to reach out to. Debbie, we got you. We're here for you. Dawn's going to give you a call. You guys are going to talk through things. We're going to build you up, because there's nothing better than just having somebody on your side saying, hey, I'm here. You got this, right? And someone who's been in your shoes is even a little bit sweeter. So join us next week. We'll be back here, same time, same place. Thank you, guys. We hope you were encouraged. See you next week.